everybody, welcome to another episode of The Village Guy. Of course, those that you are joining for the first time, this is purely just a platform to showcase Paarl excellence, to showcase people in Paarl just doing amazing things. And one of those individuals is, of course, Riel Malan. How Riel Malan caught my attention, I popped into one of his ventures at Freighter Square called the Think Digitals, Robotics and Coding, especially for younger generations. And I just wanted to find out more about the venture. And then, of course, digging deeper into behind the Riel Malan. He has an amazing story. He's currently MD at the Unlimited Group. He grew the company from small to something quite significant. I wanted to hear a bit more about that. But purely just on his entrepreneurial journey. He said he failed a few times, more fail than success. And I just wanted to hear the lessons from him, from young entrepreneur to where he is today. So, Riel, Mr. Malan, Riel, you well?
No, we're very well. Thank you. Thanks
Cool, man.
Thanks for the invite.
No problem. So, we from Paarl, early school, high school?
Yeah. So we moved to Paarl when I was about 12. So I went to school Noordheid in Northern Paarl, primary school, and then later went on to Paarl Boys and matriculated there in 91.
Okay, cool. So after matric, what we get home, Mom, I want to be an entrepreneur?
No, look, my family has been in agribusiness for generations actually. So my father was a farmer. He was here in Achterpaarl. He was a farmer, and that was sort of the path that I thought I was going to be embarking on. And then went to university, did a BCom, sort of as a general business background. Had to go back quite early because my father was ill, and ended up taking over the business much earlier than I anticipated it to do, which was back then it was a bit daunting, and I felt that all my friends were going overseas and taking a gap year, and I didn't have that opportunity. So it was initially I thought it was a bit of a to my detriment, but it ended up over time. When you're thrown on the deep end, you learn a lot of things. And the business essentially wasn't in great shape. So it was. He was ill. It was also lots of changes happening. At those days we just came out of sanctions because of I joined the business in '94, so it was just sort of at the time when changes started happening. And then also I think I came to the realization that I'm much too impatient to be a good farmer, because a farmer needs to plant the tree and wait for it to grow. And I wasn't that patient necessarily. And then in '97, in the old days we had to use KWV for the wine, we had to use the egg board for eggs, or the dairy board for dairy products. And then in '97 deregulation happened, so all of a sudden the world opened up for us to do start businesses that can expand internationally. And we had one single company we had to use for years called, those days, Unifrico, later became Capespan, and that monopoly fell. And that gave me the opportunity to look at this in a much wider scale. And at that stage I've never been overseas. And I remember I bought myself a suit and I got a plane ticket and I went over and I started selling my wares completely. I think at those days definitely more guts than brains. But and that sort of developed, and I had a couple of bumps, a couple of people who didn't pay me, bad lessons that we learned in the process. But that sort of led, so this was '97, and that sort of did my own thing for a while, and that sort of led to the formation of the first company, what later formed the Unlimited Group, called Fruits Unlimited.
Okay.
And from there it sort of grew, literally, where I remember I had 2 employees. Initially it was my sister, and also somebody from Paarl, Raquel Benjamin. And they were the first 2 people to join it, and we're now at a point where we employ anything between 1,100 and 1,500 people, depending on which part of the year we're looking at. It was a small business at that stage, which with one company, and it's now comprising 7 operating divisions.
So what was the farm? What were you farming at the
So
in
it
the
was a
beginning?
table grape farm.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, table grape and
Yeah.
a bit of wine farm. My father had a bit of almonds, so it was sort of a typical general farming
Yeah.
operation, which is disappearing these
Yeah,
days. And
yeah.
it's becoming big conglomerates.
Yeah.
It's just the economies of scale is becoming more important globally. You get these mega farming operations
Yeah.
becoming very competitive and very difficult with climate change and a number of other things. But yeah, so it was a table grape farm. So that was the first product we started marketing, and then it sort of expanded over the years. We added other fruit kinds. We added processing, so we do juices, we do ready meals. We added a nut division over time, so we do macadamias, almonds, and then we do a lot of interesting other things. We work with Woolworths quite extensively, so we work with them a lot on the import. So often you'll find grapes in our winter time from, say, Spain or from Egypt, and that would be from us. Or we will handle the imports for Woolworths and the repacking. So it's become a very diversified business over the last 20 years. So it's 20 years now that we've been busy with it.
So at what age were you appointed as the MD?
Well, I mean, I sort of started it, so I never had the title of
what
MD.
age are we?
Young? So I was 26, 27.
Wow.
I think it's a great lesson. I mean, you know, when you're younger, your propensity to take risk is much higher, you know. You mentioned earlier you don't have the dog and you don't have the kid and you don't have the mortgage payment. So I think it's one of those things, the earlier you start with these things, before you have those risks or perceived risks, the better for a business.
And so when did this entrepreneur bug kick in? I mean, going wider than just fruit.
Look, I mean, I think entrepreneurship is something that often you're forced into it. So, I mean, I realized soon after joining the business that I would have to do something different if I was going to survive, and if this business was going to survive, and my family was. So it sort of pushed you to look at it. I mean, the entrepreneurial thing was, I think, it was instilled from an early age. I remember I ran, I had a nursery at one stage when I was young, and I had a little farm shop at one stage. So I think it was sort of my mother instilled it to me to a large degree. But it's like any other skill. I think it's if it's something that you work at. I mean, even to this day, after starting many businesses and failing at many businesses, you try and take whatever learnings you can have from a failure and try and not repeat it. If you look at the Unlimited Group as it is now, it sounds great, 2,000 people or 1,500 people in 7 businesses. But we did the count the other day. We started 35 businesses over the last 20 years, of which 7 has survived. And that's the most painful thing about being an entrepreneur is starting something, and then if it doesn't work, you need to, at some point, face it and say, let's cut our losses and stop because it's not going anywhere. So, even if you look at the statistics, that usually about 1 in 11, 1 to 12 businesses tend to survive. But also the statistics show that as you get further down the road, the strike rate improves because you learn and you start.
And you build a network of people as well.
You build a network. I think that's important, and it's but it's you have to start to look for different things. You start to look for a competitive advantage from early on, because initially you just want to start a business. Then you realize, okay, I need to start a business that sort of is not as crowded. So, if you start selling something that everyone else is selling, then you're never going to have a significant business. So I start looking at things and opportunities in different ways. But that's part of the skill at the end of it.
So I see we stepped a bit into AI or robotics and coding.
So the coding center or Think Learning Centers, which is the pilot project, is at Freighter Square in Paarl. Sort of came about where I've been involved with an organization, YPO, which has been doing a lot of work on AI and the fourth industrial revolution, and I spearheaded a project for them to sort of discuss it was a year project, what the impact on Africa will be. And Africa's issue is that, if you look globally with e-commerce and the whole fourth industrial revolution economies that will be starting, is saying that we're looking at an extended period of prosperity where the world economy is going to increase tenfold over the next 20 years. That's the prediction. But the reality of it is it will increase tenfold in sectors that needs specific skills and needs a specific access in terms of education and knowing exactly what to do. So coding and whatever, the robotics, all the technical skills, or the, let's say, digital skills that will be needed to participate in this is something that's not available in many parts of South Africa. It moves so quickly. I mean, our Department of Basic Education still have not formulated a policy around what do we teach at schools. I mean, and by the time they have decided, we would have gone into the second iteration of this.
Totally.
So, I looked at this and I want my kids to code. So it was a bit of a selfish start. And we looked around, and the only place to get them to learn coding would be to drive them into town. And we don't have the time, and it's expensive, and all the rest of it. So we started looking at bringing it to Paarl. And as we sort of did the rounds and found a partner and to assist us with it, we realized that it's the same for a lot of digital skills. Everyone's saying is that with the digital revolution, you can get access to the best possible skills out there. But the practicality of it is it still needs to be delivered at some point. There needs to be curriculums and disciplines. So in theory, it's a great equalizer. Everyone in South Africa can now get access to it, but we need to bring it, and hardware is an issue as well.
Okay.
So the idea is to sort of set up a little center which will act as a pilot, where we will be, we've appointed a super duper center manager, and she is assisting us to put together various curriculums of relevant digital skills, whether it's web development. We're looking at AI, you mentioned, and it's also of introductory courses. So we now have a number of courses running there. We have senior primary coding, so sort of entry-level coding for senior primary kids.
And that age is what?
That's sort of grade 6, 7, which would be sort of the final 2 years of primary school. Then we're going to have a grade 8, 9, which is sort of first 2 years of high school, and then grade 9, 10, 11, 12.
Okay, cool.
The great thing about digital skills, it's very mobile. It doesn't matter where you go.
True.
It's something you can do from home. It's something that you can do part-time. It's something you can do when you're traveling. So the big change is in the old days, you needed to slot into an 8 to 5 job. And if you can equip yourself these days with these types of skills, then you're essentially very mobile to do that. Paarl has got and we did a bit of research, Paarl's got a big community of graduates, matriculants, which sort of is unemployed. So graduate high school, and if we can, with this center and also with what we're trying, the programs we're trying to be, sort of put them on a path to just kickstart their careers and get them to think in a different way, then we believe that it'll have a major impact on all learners that sort of have access to that, but specifically on Paarl's unemployment, and specifically youth unemployment. Because there's unemployment, and then youth unemployment generally is much higher than the
So are we going to get it into the schools? I mean, is there like a process?
So we have partnered with 1 or 2 schools. It's still sort of we need to sort of cement the curriculums. 1 or 2 schools in Paarl has sort of indicated they want to bring it in as school subjects.
Oh, cool. That's nice.
And the idea, Paarl's got so many schools, the idea would be to expand on that, to make sure we bring it to everyone's, within reach of everyone. So, and that's sort of the focus. We are talking to various sponsors and NGOs. The center was sponsored here at Freighter Square.
Oh, nice.
And why we want to put it out there, if anybody is interested in using the space, if they have a course that they feel will add value to the community, they're welcome to present it to us. So it'll go through a screening committee to see if you're a web developer and you want to develop a course for kids to do web development.
That's cool.
You can submit that course to us.
Oh, that's cool.
So in addition to providing the tuition, we also want to provide a platform for somebody who wants to set up an education business. If you want to do
Oh, I mean, video,
Excel, or
video
video
editing,
or whatever.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
Wow.
so it's there. There's a usage fee per user. There's there's a big screen TV. There's Chromecast. There's internet
That
access.
is so cool.
So we said a minimum of about at least to make it worthwhile. You need to try and get 8 to 10 people that does your course.
Yeah.
But the main idea is to bring these skills here, and how we then develop it. If it works well, we want to expand on the model of a little center of 20 computers, which we can do in Uppington, Prieska, wherever. So we want to really move the digital skills into the South African community where it's not easily accessible.
That is so cool. So 2020, is it open already? Is it enrollment? How does it work?
Yeah, so it's open. You can go onto our website, www.thinkcenters.com. You can go and look at the there's a Facebook page.
Okay,
there's,
cool. Yeah.
Zito's put it on all the social media platforms. You can see what's there.
Yeah.
Our contact details are there, and
Okay,
if
nice.
you have a course that you want to potentially do, they contact us, and we will go through a process with you. But
Okay,
so
cool.
we sort of kick-started at the end of 2019, sort of just to all the wheels, and then we will start the second week of the new term in January.
Okay.
We will kick off with the 3 main coding and robotics.
So that's the grade last 2 before high school, first 2 after high school, and then 8 to matric.
And it's a coding and robotics, of course, it's combined. So the coding is quite abstract because it's mathematics, and you get to a T-junction, how do you go left, how do you go right? And what the robots does, it makes it very nice and practical.
Okay,
so
cool.
you actually code and you see how the robot moves, how it draws a circle, how it hits a wall and turns left or turns right. So it makes it very, very practical for the learner or for anybody who wants to learn coding and robotics. I must maybe add there's quite a big interest from adults on coding as well.
Oh yeah, cool.
So there's a number of adults, and we've sort of opened an adult course as well, where if we can get to 10 people who wants to do the adult course, we'll launch an adult coding course too.
All right, cool.
So if you're interested to find out about coding, doesn't matter how old you are, and I think it's the thing about these days, even if you're 30, 35, 40 for that or older, if you put your mind to it, and you've got a knack for problem solving and for mathematics, then coding could be your thing.
Wow.
So make it
mom and kid can
or teacher and kids.
That is so cool.
If you're working in a field where you want to understand it better, where you may be managing people who code and you don't really know how to, what it's all about, you can come in.
Okay. All right, cool. Yeah. So you'll tell me a bit about the entrepreneur. So give me, what is 2 of the biggest challenges of being an entrepreneur, in your journey?
Yeah. So it's interesting. I've end of last year I did a bit of a sabbatical, and I did like you doing you doing webcasts, but I did a podcast series, and I had a number of interesting guys on my show, and one of the most inspirational guys was a guy called Tabs Dube, who's out in Stellenbosch. Now, Tabs lost his leg in an accident and went through a terrible time, and ended up started doing leather work, and he now employs 9, 10 people in a leather shop. His brand Let's is doing very well. And Tabs made an interesting comment where he says initially he thought money was the constraint.
Yeah.
And then he realized later that knowledge and experience and access to a good mentor is far more worth than money. And he said if he got the money that he thought he needed, he would have squandered it. So I think the first thing is find yourself a good mentor to bounce ideas from, to make sure that this guy sort of vets your ideas, that he shoots holes in your ideas, that you don't make, if you can find a good one, which it's preferable to sort of just make sure that you have somebody who sort of can guide you on the journey. So I think
does there have to be someone in the field that you are into, or can it just be a general?
I think somebody who's sort of, business has got its specific skills. So I think if it's somebody that's in business, and we'll ask you about, what's your business plan, what's cash flows, how do you plan to do this and that. So it's somebody, I don't think it's necessarily somebody in that field. It will help, obviously, if it's in that field, but somebody you look up to that sort of, and you can trust, that you can sort of open yourself up to a little bit. So I think that's the first. And then secondly, I think which is probably the most important one, is that people are really scared to fail. And
Yeah.
you have to prepare yourself that you're going to fail. There's very few people that succeed in their first and even second, even third ventures, but they tend to get better and better. So you have to realize that, failure is not you failing, it's the business failing. And people tend to connect themselves to their business and tend to connect their personalities to their business. And if I had to connect my business, so we have 7 businesses out of 35 that's worked, so there was 28.
Yeah.
So if I had to sort of be sort of on the floor every time for 28 times, I would have psychologically never made it.
Yeah, true.
So I think that's an important factor, is that failure is not you don't plan to fail, because you don't want to fail. If you can do it the first time, fantastic. But you have to sort of be prepared that the journey is not easy, and that you will probably fail once or twice, and that you'll make mistakes. Even in this business, we constantly make mistakes. We now made a massive mistake again, and you pay the price literally for it. So it's a craft, and you develop your craft and you develop your skill over time, but be prepared to fail and be okay with it.
Yeah.
And if you can sort of psychologically put yourself in that space, and you can find a good mentor and you have a good idea, then there's very few things that's going to stop you.
Yeah. So how easy did you find it to let go or give away? Like, you started your own business, so you did everything. So and then there's a stage where you come and you say, I don't have the time, I need someone. How do you, because I find that very difficult. So how do you let go and say, okay, this is your responsibility, knowing that you probably can do it best, but you're giving it away now?
There's a great quote that says, all wealth is rooted in delegation.
Okay, cool. All right.
So at the end of the day, it's I think firstly you obviously start with something and you need to understand what it's all about. So I think this is a general road that you walk, that you need to get that skill under your belt. And then it's about, forcing yourself to let go on things that are important but not essential. Usually you try and keep the essential stuff under your wing. But the stuff that's important, that you need to monitor, you must start farming that out to staff, to collaborators, to subcontractors. But important to, you always take primary responsibility for your business. So quality control, systems, then you start building. You need to be, if you build a business over time, I've been going for 20 years with the Unlimited Group. If I leave and the business stops, I would have effectively achieved very little, because that's not a business. That's all rooted around me. And also the other thing is, people need to understand that there's 2 journeys as an entrepreneur that you can walk. You can walk the lifestyle business road, where you're saying, I want to make enough money to have a comfortable life, to look after me and my children, and to get them through school, and to retire comfortably.
Great.
So that's the path that most people sort of walk. And then there is the Pinky and the Brain scenario. Say, what are we going to do tomorrow? Pinky is we're going to take over the world. So you then try and build something that's much bigger than yourself, and both of them are entrepreneurial, but the one journey tends to be more difficult and often more risky. Whereas with a lifestyle business, economies are built on lifestyle businesses. And the great thing about digital skills now is you literally can sit here at the southern tip of Africa and find some niche here, buchu out of the mountains and that's grown here in the tourist Kloof, and you can find an international market for it. So all of a sudden with technology, the world is really your oyster. You're not limited to Paarl anymore if you have a business here. You're not limited to South Africa even. So I think that's the great thing about a lifestyle business, is that there's people that make livings just selling stuff on eBay.
No, that's true.
So it's but make that choice, saying is that I'm happy with building a successful business that gives me freedom and gives me what I want as an individual, or I'm going to go
the maverick route,
the maverick big bang route, where I'm trying to build something that's much bigger than myself. And at some stage, if you're really good, you're going to work yourself out of a job, and that's going to continue without you, and you're going to start the next thing.
Oh, well, that's awesome. I always ask my interviewees your biggest failure, meaning the failure where you've learned your biggest lesson in life. Like, Like, yeah, biggest lesson in life.
So many. To choose one. I think. I mean, we went into a territory which we thought we understood into Russia specifically.
Okay.
Where we took exactly the same business plan that we had here, and we thought that perfect, servicing retailers here, there's retailers there, and it was just an absolute mess because they devalued the ruble. There was a war with Chechnya, not Chechnya, with the Ukraine that erupted. They shot down a plane.
Oh yeah, okay, I remember.
I mean, and it just so lots of things just happened, and we had to shut down that business recently. So I think from a monetary perspective, that was probably our biggest fail. It was an expensive outing because it was outside of South Africa. It was expensive people and that ran the business, and we just got to a point where we said this thing is not going to turn around. We have to close it down. So that was I think from a personal perspective, I have started businesses before where I probably didn't do my homework well enough, and you end up having people that work there and build their livelihoods on. So I think realizing that responsibility that it's not only you, if you start something, there's more people that sort of connected, so you better be very sure of what you're doing when you start employing other people, because it ends up being very traumatic for.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But overall, I mean, we went from 2 people to employing 1,005. Without us, that's the great satisfaction. And the Unlimited Group is without the Unlimited Group, many people would have had to find work elsewhere or wouldn't have had to work in the first place. That's great. It's very satisfying to know that when you look back.
Yeah. Riel, so I've got 10 questions just to get to know Riel Malan a bit personally better.
So there's more.
Yeah, just 10 quick ones. Supper with 3 people, dead or alive. Who are these 3 people?
Dead or alive. Okay, I would love to have supper with Warren Buffett.
Okay.
I would have loved to have supper with Leonardo da Vinci. I mean, he was sort of the first multidisciplinary guy. And then I would say probably Steve Jobs would be the other one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So 2 dead and 1 alive.
If you could play in any band with any instrument, which band would it be, and which instrument would it be?
I would have loved to play in Queen. that would have been taken. I play guitar, so it would have been guitar.
So you play?
I do, yeah.
All right, nice.
Oh, rusty, but yeah.
You could play in a movie along any actor and actress. Which actor and actress?
Movies. So many, I mean, The Shawshank Redemption was a good one. I watched it with my kids the other day again. That was a fantastic movie. I would have. I mean, it would be good to some of Al Pacino. See, they know the Irishman, Robert De Niro, Morgan Freeman, all the older. Old Jack Nicholson, all the older, well-established actors.
Pinch myself moment where you said, "Wow, Riel, this is really happening."
There's many of them. I mean, it's. I think there's been. I mean, I was chairman of YPO Africa, which is a great organisation for CEOs, and when I became chairman, that was a pinch yourself moment where this kid from a farm ended up heading up this organisation of CEOs for Africa. So that would have been a pinch me moment.
Yeah, perfect. Do you watch series, binge on series or anything?
I do actually, I did the old Game of Thrones. That was phenomenal. And then Billions was a great series.
Stunning.
It's a really, I think it's a bit over dramatized.
Yeah,
I think a guy like that is just a bit too perfect.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's some good learnings from it.
Yeah, it's almost like when I watch it, I feel like, can I walk into my boss's office and have the same attitude?
You might lose your head in the process.
What would you tell your 20-year-old self?
My 20-year-old self. I would probably be a little bit less hard on my 20-year-old self. I think I took the first couple of failures very personally. So I would tell myself is that you are going to fail and it's okay to fail.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Who's your mentor?
I have a number of mentors. So they say actually that the Fortune 500 CEOs tend to have 6 to 7 mentors, to 8 mentors, in different fields. So I've got people that sort of mentor me from a personal perspective. I'm part of a group that gets together once a month, and a sort of all people in business that sort of mentors each other.
Nice.
There's people from a spiritual perspective that mentors me. I think that's an important factor to keep your spiritual part of it. So different people sort of, I think, have played different roles in your life. And you can never have enough.
Yeah.
The prerequisite obviously is you need to look up to that person and he needs to understand that responsibility.
If you had a billboard up here on the main road with Riel's face there and there's the speech bubble and people drive past it every day, what do you want to tell the world?
What's next? That would be
the next big thing.
That would be one. I think it's money is a consequence, and I think this is where people get it wrong. People go after money, and it's not purpose. Money flows from doing something within your purpose. And I think that the general society, and if you look at the music videos and if you even look Instagram, you say, the guys that are driving around. I mean, the wealthiest guys drive around in second-hand cars.
Yeah, true.
They don't drive around in Bentleys and Ferraris. And it's a wrong perception. So find something. Yeah. So the billboard would say is that money flows from functioning within your purpose.
Okay. Oh, that's perfect. If you had aspiring entrepreneurs in front of you, what advice would you give them? They say, "Hi, Riel. I mean, you've made a company over from to a billion rand company. Give us some advice. What's?"
I think don't underestimate the value of starting small. I mean, we all started small somewhere, and you need to build on small successes to get to big successes. So find something that works, work at it, make sure it continues to work, and then once you sort of have it figured out and it sort of acts as the basis of what you're doing, you go for the next thing. I find, and I mean this is one of the things I struggle with, is that you want to do too many things too quickly, and then you do a lot of the things half baked.
Yeah.
And it is something that an entrepreneur struggles with.
Yeah.
But find something and build on it.
Yeah. And then lastly, what's the big goal? What's Riel's big dream?
I think there's a great quote that says that at the end, as far as we know, that the main reason for living is to actually make a difference. And I think that is, as cheesy as it sounds, as many people say it, is that's the satisfaction. So it's, it's fairly easy to get to a point where you sort of have your basic needs looked after, and then what happens after that? Money can't be the driving factor. So the big dream would be is to impact as many people as possible over my lifetime, and I think that the reason why you're here is to leave it a better place than what you found it.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, but Riel, on that note, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
It was really, really fun, insightful.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, so yes, Paarl, you heard there's robotics, there's coding, there's AI, everything's in Paarl, so you know where to go. I'll post all the details on the interview so you can visit their Facebook pages and their websites. But Zita and Riel, thanks so much.
Thank you.
We'll chat again.
Thanks.
Bye. Thanks.